Hey, everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, legacy precious metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
Everybody, it's Doug Collins. Welcome back to the Doug Collins Podcast. Today, again, as you've known here in the last month, we've had some just phenomenal episodes. This is one personally that I've been excited about. Now we make connection and get going. For those of you who know, I believe in a podcast. We talk politics, we talk life, we talk faith, we talk family, and we talk sports, and we talk hunting. And after going through a career and being in politics, being alive, I found over the last few years of my life, getting back into the woods from my time of growing up, fishing, going in the woods, has been my stress relief. I believe everybody needs a time when they can get back into what God gave us, and that's the greatest creation in the world with animals and hunting and fishing. It's just, it gets us back to who we are. For all those folks out there who believe, these newfangled stuff, the best conservationists, the best environmentalists are your hunters, your folks who get out there and deal in the woods. And today I am pumped. And before you even see it, I got to show you folks, we've got the bone collector in the house. Michael Waddell is with me, Georgia boy. I am excited about this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of things. But the first off, for everybody who may not know, and Michael, this may be a time for people to get to know you. If they go to your site, they say the man from Booger Bottom. Okay, even from Georgia now. Come on, I'm from Greshamville down in Morgan County. Come on, Greene County. Booger Bottom's got me beat, brother. Hi.
Man, hey, you got to have a Booger Bottom. I know where you're from. I've been up in them hills and hollers that you lived in, and I tell you, Booger Bottom is real similar. There's no stoplight. It's just an area. Like, if you go to Warm Springs, Georgia, which obviously, that's right there where FDR had the little White House, and if you say, hey, I'm looking for Booger Bottom, they'll tell you exactly where to go. And there's all kind of folklore and stuff, but it's funny. I get more of a kick out of that across the country. People's like, where are you born and raised? I was like, place called Booger Bottom, Georgia. And it's funny because everybody local, they love it, but everybody's like, oh, come on, man. I'm like, I'm serious. That's what they call it. And so, man, and obviously if you're from Booger Bottom, Georgia, you do a lot of hunting and fishing, and something about some fried chicken and cornbread too. I know that.
Now, come on now. If we're going to talk food, we get that cornbread and you get a little bit of collards, get a little turnip, get some chow going. Come on.
Woo! Better watch.
We
Georgia boys. You better watch out. Like I said, we eat good.
I tell you, you want to freak somebody out. I went up one time, I was in D.C., and we're talking about they're talking about all the desserts. And then we talking about peaches. You had mentioned peaches, and my wife's grandparents used to raise peaches. And all. But when I was growing up, Daddy was a state trooper, came home, and we would eat, and we didn't have a lot, but we had plenty. If you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
And Daddy would take a glass of get a bowl and get some sweet milk. That's whole milk for the rest of you in the world.
That's right.
And then he'd take the pound of cornbread and he'd crumble that cornbread up in that milk, and that was dessert. I mean, there ain't nothing better.
Nothing better. Matter of fact, buttermilk. We used to do that a lot. Buttermilk, cornbread, cup of Vidalia in there, and it's funny. We were texting, and I was very excited and honored to be on your podcast. And you text me, say, "Hey man, I might be running just a little late to start this thing." And so my dad had just walked in the door, and he had some fresh peaches, and I was over eating that peach like somebody, like I done stole it. I mean, I just wanted to get rid of the evidence, And so
you gotta get in there with. Hey, I saw the most offensive thing. And folks who watch the podcast, they know me. We're gonna get into this in a minute. So I went with my beautiful bride of 34 years and your bride as well. But we went to Sam's the other day, and I saw something. I just wanted to go to the front door, lock the door, and stop it. They had California peaches, and they had the audacity to have a California white peach. I'm sorry, Georgia Bell's is the only white peach. Texas, California ain't got nothing on that.
I agree. I can accept one from South Carolina, and that's about as far as it goes. I mean, you got to stay south with that. I mean, I appreciate the fruit they grow in California. I love their pistachios, their walnuts. They got those little cuties. I know they do a good job on the tangerines, and our Florida brothers do. But let me tell you something. When you're talking peaches, you got to keep it right there in Georgia. I'm not going to I'm going to vote with you on that, Mr. Collins. I promise.
It's a high quality on that one. On a weird note, you talk about California. Do you know that Georgia most every year is the number one state in blueberries?
You know what's funny is I didn't realize that, but over the last couple of years, I have been hunting a lot with some South Georgia blueberry farmers. And one friend that I made up in Tennessee that I turkey hunt with every year, he actually is a big, large blueberry farmer, and I didn't realize just how big it was. And as a matter of fact, another thing that we're big in is pecan. And my wife and I have a pecan farm. And it's funny. I never was, I've always appreciated our ag in Georgia, but I never had participated outside of growing food plots. I mean, I always had me a little garden, some sweet corn, tomatoes.
Oh, yeah.
But when it comes to a lot of our best fruits and vegetables, you're right. Georgia is still a force to be reckoned with. We still grow some amazing stuff. And obviously Vidalia. I mean, you can't just go anywhere and get a Vidalia onion. It has to be from Vidalia, Georgia. So
Exactly. This Texas sweet stuff don't work. And then, of course, you get up to my part of the woods, the nooks and hollers up here. A lot of folks up our way, we have to acknowledge the fact that they may not eat their corn, they may drink it, but that's a whole different issue.
that happens a lot around here, too.
I love it. Well, one, for folks on the podcast, if you've known the name Bone Collector, you've seen it all over. And talk about hunting, and for somebody to be an ambassador of what we do, and for those who love to get out in the woods and do that, you are just a great example of that. Go back. Let's find out how you became you a little bit. Talk about growing up. Talk about how you got into hunting. Especially now that you're a brand, and I think I don't mean that. I mean that in a very good way. And how did that happen? Talk to people who may be out there who say this may be their first indication. They maybe listen to a podcast. They say a hunter, and they've never done it. Talk about how you became you.
Man, I'd be glad to. And thanks for the question, Doug. It's actually a kind of a cool story and a really cool American story, not just from the South, but, in America, you can do so much amazing things. And I think it's so easy to forget that. As we set time, sometimes we squabble about the least of things. And for me, very similar to you, I grew up in a very rural country area. And, everybody seemed to hunt and fish and have those gardens. And, you celebrated things like a sunny day and a fresh peach. I mean, just little things. I mean, people on front porch shelling pink eye purple hulls. I mean, literally the arguments were, what's a better, tomato, a Rutger or a Better Boy. I mean, literally that was about the only fist fights around Booger Bottom. And you're right, and there was people that sipped on a little corn whiskey and stuff like that. But everybody seemed to hunt and fish, and obviously I was no different than anybody else. I was introduced to hunting when I was really young. Obviously, small game to that led into deer hunting and stuff like that. And I quickly just fell in love with it. And it was something me and my dad just did a lot of. My pawpaw. On both sides, my mama's side and my dad's side. My Uncle Morgan. Obviously, he lived up in Atlanta and worked for Bell South, and they would come down, opening weekend of deer season. It literally was unbelievable. It was as big as Christmas. It was just a big, big thing that everybody did. And so I fell in love with it. But really what happened for me that really turned a page of, like, if you want to say become something to where I really took it to the next level, was when we started having turkeys that were gobbling in the South. And I was probably 12 or 13. And I really fell in love with that, because I was just like, man, this is tough. And man, you got a language to learn. And obviously I had a lot of people I looked up to that was turkey callers. And so I went on from there and won a state championship, and then I actually had a chance to win a grand national championship when I was young, right there just out of high school. And that's where I kind of got my start in the hunting industry. I can't even tell you, Doug, that I knew that there was an industry at the time.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, looking back, I wasn't a business guy, or I was a kid, but I knew there had to be something, because I was buying product. I remember my dad, I'm sure, used to go down to the Buckarama in Atlanta every year. And
Oh, yeah.
man, we'd go eat pizza and walk around and look for, dough pea. I mean, literally, get cool deals on stands and look for opportunities to places to hunt. And so, that was always a big part of my childhood. And so when I won those turkey calling contests, that got me an introduction to people in the hunting industry, people like Bill Jordan, David Blanton, and just the world that was out there as far as manufacturing. And I learned that there were obviously, I started looking at these TV shows that I'd watched and these hunting videos that I'd watched.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, somebody's got to be working behind the scenes. And so that just led to an opportunity to start a career in hunting industry. And really one thing led to another. And obviously I was that old saying, a kid in a candy store. That's what it was. I couldn't believe I was actually having a chance to work in a space that I just truly, truly enjoyed. And so I had an opportunity probably about 10 years into my career to start hosting a TV show called Real Tree Road Trips, where basically it was just more behind the scenes. It was more, I was always just cutting up, not real serious. I was serious about my hunting, but I always enjoyed having a good time. I enjoyed being around good people. I was proud of where I was from. I was a proud American. And I really just had a very big passion for, showing people what the hunting culture was all about. And to me, it was a lot more than just getting an animal, putting it on the wall or putting it in the freezer. And so I was just really lucky to luckily have some people that gravitated toward that type of production, to where we were showing a lot of behind the scenes and just laughing and cutting up, the friendships, the camaraderie. Obviously, even all of us that hunt and fish, we've certainly raised our share of hell, no pun intended. But I will say we always knew that the good Lord put these renewable resources out there for hunt. We realized we had dominion over it. And so for me, I had the opportunity to share with people just, hey, hunting was something that was a God-given right, and it gave us an opportunity to go out there. And it was, like you mentioned, even opening this podcast, for me still in the most stressful, anxious times, I still escape to the woods. It is my, if you want to call it my Prozac, that is it. That is it. That is the drug of choice, is to go to the woods. It sets my mind free. You can say a little prayer up in the stand. You look around, you see a squirrel. A lot of times the last thing you're worried about is if you're going to get a shot. You just escape. You escape the responsibility and chores of the home and just all the stress. Obviously, you look back on your career, you've certainly been in some heated debates. You've had the whole world watching. And so that escape, it works for everybody. And I don't think everybody see that and understand that. And so those that are hearing this and watching this, they understand it. There's a lot that don't, that just want to quickly judge and maybe start hating on it. But a lot of that is not understood. I think a lot of people are going to better understand it, Doug, when they start buying meat this next year and those fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Because, not to get political right off the bat, but we're about to see some major crazy prices. And that deer meat and a rabbit, a squirrel, I think a lot of people, even in California, is going to start looking at it a little different.
Oh, it amazes me, like, when we talk about this, hunters are, the environmentalists, everybody talking about, we're the most organic, you don't get any more organic than, going out and taking an elk or a deer or, whitetail or squirrel. I have to tell you a funny story, though. You'll appreciate this. Okay, to a Georgia boy. I'm up in D.C. and we're in the middle of something, it was crazy time. Something was going on. And it was the first year, and I went with my boys squirrel hunting. Okay. And so we went, we got a couple of squirrels, and it was sort of quiet. So I came back home, cut them up, and and anybody wants to see this, they can go to my Instagram page. And so I did a picture in the woods. I laid them on the trees, did a picture on the woods, got them up when I cut them up and put them on the grill, and then put them on the final table. And I called it my farm to table meal. I'm followed by a lot of people who've never been in the woods. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Right.
My chief of staff called me late that evening. He said, "What have you done?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, Did you put animals on your Instagram?" I said, "Well, I showed me cooking squirrel." He said, "Cooking what?"
But they were. I mean, I can't. I might have to go back if I was still older. I can't imagine the comments. But isn't that crazy? How that is strange. I mean, like if you grew up like we did, I mean, that's just life, right? I mean, that's what you did.
Squirrel. I mean, I mean, look, for those out there eclectic, I had a little olive oil. I put a little black pepper, put them on the grill, and they were like, I can't watch his Instagram anymore. And it's like, what? You're ready to go to a restaurant and go through a processed meat category, and you take that, and you won't take what I just took out of the woods that God gave me, really? So, but this is where we get back to this whole thing.
It is funny, man. I mean, one of the number one comments we get sometimes negatively, and it blows my mind. It's like, why do you even go hunt when you can go buy this meat at the grocery store? Almost like we're being, this evil person by hunting. And obviously, for me, I take a lot of pride in feeding my family, even my kids. I mean, we process a lot of our own deer and, make hamburger meat out of it. I'll even go down to the local grocery store and get a little beef fat, and man, we'll mix it up. We'll get out there and make some sausage and different things, link and patty. And on those cold days, man, it's just amazing. And even my kids who have success hunting, I will label all those packages. Like Waylon, my son Waylon, he's my youngest. He's 6. My oldest boy is 22. And I will label each, this is Waylon's deer, this is Mason's deer, this is my daughter Audrey's deer. And there's a lot of pride that I can tell my kids, like, hey, tonight we're might be hamburger helper at minimum, and then it might be some unbelievable lasagna, homemade lasagna my wife's making, and we can say this come from our farm, and you had a hand in helping provide supper tonight. And so, for me, I take a lot of pride in that, and I'm very humbled that we get that opportunity. And it's amazing to me, the ignorance. It's being lost, I think, a lot. I mean, we're trying to preach that message, but I see it all the time, even on our page, which people come to for hunting. I'm still blown away at sometimes the ignorance, from that side of things. It's crazy.
It is. And me being, again, and I freely admit, I hunt. I was fishing, grew up on the lake, and did some hunting when I was younger. Didn't as much. I was in sports a lot as well, and went away from it a lot when my kids were younger. I wish I had not, but I've came back to it, and I think it's sort of coming back to that makes you remember, what you were looking at, and you're talking about your kids and providing for that. Let's turn for a second. You talked about turkey. Really, is where you sort of got into it. I do want to hit an issue that it's been coming up a little bit. I know here in Georgia, and it's a little bit, and the turkey population, and what's going to talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, you can't stop the flop, and folks. If you go to bonecollector.com, there's plenty of stuff for you to go buy, go do it, but can't stop the flop's one of the funniest things you got to see. It is great, but talk to us a little bit about that, because that has been a concern. I got buddies down in South Georgia. Normally see a bunch gobblers. They're not seeing them up here in North Georgia. Again, not as like we have in the past. What you hearing about that? And across country too. I've heard it across country too.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going into it. Even here on my home farm, we're pretty blessed. We got about just over 500 acres, and I've been just obviously management trying to just in my own way, along with some biologists and different people I know that know a lot about just habitat and things like that. And obviously the cool thing about us as hunters, we're really protective and really instrumental in making sure that we obviously leave more than we take. And that's one of the things with the turkey hunters out there in certain areas and regions, and even almost area by area in certain counties, you're seeing a little bit of a decline in certain spots. And it's crazy because, you and I, very similar in age, we grew up from North Georgia to South Georgia. We was just covered in wild quail. we saw that almost be eradicated, and they never really, it was almost like an unsolved mystery. I mean, there's certain people and certain biologists that will say they'll have the answers, but I think it's a multitude of a lot of different things, Doug, that's affecting that. A lot of people thought, okay, well, maybe we're over harvesting. Maybe we're taking some of these gobblers too early and they're not getting, the hens as fertilized eggs as possible. Maybe it's too many predators, maybe not enough habitat. And so I, for one, my opinion on it, based on just some stuff that I've done on our local leases here and my farm, I think it's a little bit of multitude of everything. Like, for instance, the last 3 years, man, I went back to trapping like I did when me and my papa was when I was a youngin. I just got out of it. It wasn't something I did, when it comes to coons, possums, coyotes, bobcats, foxes. And the first year that I really got after them hard, I caught 20 coyotes, caught 5 bobcats, I caught 12 foxes. I probably caught 25 coons and possums a piece. And the next year, we were blessed that spring. I had a good spring far as the weather, and I had a tremendous poult reproduction. And some farms down the road from me, they didn't have as much. So I remember thinking, well, there's no doubt them predators made a difference. Now, some biologists will say, well, they really don't. I saw that it did. I also noticed that if I let my food plots grow up higher and didn't mow them, all through those April and May months, that I seemed to have better bug reproduction. I gave those hens a little bit better cover, maybe habitat to nest in and bug in and brood in. So I've been trying a bunch of different things. So my thought is, I think there's a multitude of a lot of different things. Some people are going as far, Doug, and saying that, since baiting is legal, that maybe it's molded corn. Some people say, well, it's a certain tactic that's being used in hunting turkeys. I just think it's a combination of several things, because here's the good news. I found in a lot of places that I've hunted in the state of Georgia where people are very, very serious. Like, that's the only thing in their life is just a wild turkey. They're covered in turkeys. Now, you go 2 properties over, or maybe not even 2 properties over, maybe just drive an hour or so, there's not as many. And so I think it's a multitude of things. I think there's a lot of studies that's being shown. And the good news, I think the state departments are really reacting really quick to try to get to the bottom of it. And all we can do. And two, it's crazy. And I just hope the turkey don't ever turn out kind of like the quail did in Georgia. One thing I've noticed, Doug, it seems like there's an ebb and flow to certain animals. Like, I remember there was been certain years where the deer population wasn't that high. And then all of a sudden you might give it 3 years and you've taken the same amount of animals and they're everywhere. It's like, I don't know. It's almost like, as much as we try to balance nature, it seems like the good Lord does have this mysterious way of coming in and saying, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm not going to get it too much or too less. You go out to Montana, there'll be deer everywhere. Literally, in some of those that Milk River bottom, it's so many deer, hundreds and hundreds of deer. And you'll think, man, this is going to be the easiest thing to get a deer. You'll go back out the next year and EHD would have hit. And Doug, I'm telling you, 98% of the deer are dead. And then 6 years later, it'll get back up to this crazy high. So there's a lot about wildlife, and I think that's the mystery of it, that you learn a lot. And I think that's another reason I like to hunt, and I like the conservation, and I like even the environmentalist part of it, even though that's a little yuppie for me to say. But I will say I like it all, because you realize you're always learning. You'll never know it all, and there's always things and variables that change it.
Well, and I think one of the things that I'm a big proponent, and you and I both have been blessed to put roots deep in Georgia, but we've traveled the world. Okay, we've traveled a lot of places, which I think is one of the best things in the world, because it gives you perspective. After you got out of turkey, I know you deer and talk about some going out, especially with I know you do elk hunts, you've done others. What is traveling done for you and hunting? Some of your trips that you sort of made an impression on you. You said, "Wow, God, you're a pretty cool God. This is pretty neat."
I would say that traveling hunting has probably had one of the biggest impacts. And you're right, Doug, growing up in Georgia soil and red clay under my nails and loblolly pines, learning how to navigate through them and little old cane cutter briars and looking for snakes. It's funny. I never knew I would get a chance to hunt some of these places I dreamed about, that I read in some of these magazines. I think that's really cool. You and I both have had a chance to see a lot of amazing country. We've seen some amazing culture, amazing people. And And so in that, there's a big blessing of learning about diversity, not necessarily in race. I'm just talking about in geography and the diversity and like, the argument when you eat barbecue in Oklahoma or Texas versus the barbecue we're used to eating in Georgia. And even you get up in Northeast, up toward that South, the Carolinas, different. And so for me, hunting different geography, different terrains, I've learned so much, and it's taught me a lot about life, and it's helped me understand politics even better because I've also hunted out of America. I've been all over Mexico, all over Canada, many African countries. And let me tell you something. I didn't know how much I appreciated America until I left Zimbabwe and learned about a guy named Mugabe. Yeah. When you learn about that cat, you realize that it's some pretty bad stuff. We can sit here and vent, and people can sit there and say that they, hate somebody. I mean, literally, people in America can sit there and say, man, I can't stand this congressman, or can't stand this senator. I can't stand this president. And I remember going over there, just a young hillbilly kid from Georgia in Zimbabwe, and they was having an election. Come to find out, the guy that was running against him, he's dead. He just killed him. That way we don't have to worry about them votes. Just kill him. I mean, literally, that's what happened. And I remember, and I was talking to some Zimbabwe natives there, and I said, so, I mean, this Mugabe, he's like a bad guy, man. Why don't y'all get rid of him? And literally, Doug, I never forget this. This is my first lesson in world politics. They did like this. They said,
yeah, exactly.
and I'm, and like in America, I mean, there's people going crazy about, if they're man or whoever, and talking and on public forums. That doesn't happen. So that's what I'll put the political spin. But from a standpoint of knowing that, oh my goodness, the good Lord was certainly a sculptor. When you go to like the Yukon or Alaska, even states like Utah and Montana, and you see that country and you wake up, and old John Denver had that song about a Rocky Mountain High. He wasn't lying. I don't think he hunted it as hard as I did. I think he sat around and maybe had a left-handed cigarette and just relaxed and did it different than I did. But when you're out there chasing elk in Colorado, ooh, son, and that frosty morning and just a black cup of coffee, man, let me tell you something. And you finally find success, and you can bring some of that elk meat home to your family and tell your buddies about it. In our case, we captured on video. No, there is no way you can't know there's not a God when you get in that country. And and I certainly appreciate Georgia. I appreciate our swamps. I appreciate them hills that you lived in and grew up chasing squirrels and stuff in. But there's some places right here in America that are fascinating, that just blew my mind. They still do. I'm still humble when I get in that country. A lot of times now it's because I've been eating too many of these big old biscuits my wife been cooking, so it's hard to get up and down them mountains.
Yeah. Oh, I was just in Utah on a business trip. I got some buddies are going back out there because I think September 1 elk season hits, and they're getting ready to go back out. My dream trip you mentioned, Yukon. The Brooks Range. I want to get up in the Brooks Range, and I told somebody, they said, well, why do you want to go up there? I said, I want to go to a place in which it'll be me, maybe my guide, or a couple other people, and there's nobody for 500 miles near us.
Absolutely. And it could be other than that. I mean, it's
yeah. That's my big dream. Looking at it, whitetail season just getting ready to hit. I know down here in Georgia, we're going to have it all over the country. You're, of course, all over the country doing it. In fact, we're not, 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks from bow season starting here in Georgia. I know you do both. What do you, interesting question, is we go bow or a gun? Which do you prefer?
I prefer a bow. I just love it. I love bow hunting, man. I don't know. There's something primitive about it. There is a pride factor to, and it's just you're so much closer, and it's so much of a challenge, and so obviously, I mean, I still like to rifle hunt, but if I have a chance to take a bow versus a gun, I would say 90% of the time I'm going to take that bow and arrow.
Exactly. I got back into it. I never shot a bow growing up. I was gun. We had guns. We did that. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I got my first bow and started shooting. Never before. And folks, if you're out there listening to the podcast today and you're hearing Mike, you're hearing myself, look, I can't explain this. I grew up shooting and I love to shoot. But for me, getting that bow for the first time that I could pull back, that I could get on it, and I just sit there and put, arrows through the bow. I mean, and you described earlier, it's just like, It was just relaxing. I mean, and I'd come back home from Washington. My wife, there's certain things people know about me. When I get back home, my wife knows when I get my ball cap on and my jeans and my shorts, one or the other, that I'm home. And I get that. I go downstairs, get that bow, go out back, and it's just relaxing. Bow hunting, I have to admit, I've not been successful where I want to be with bow hunting. I'm learning. I've scared a few to death, but we're working on it. In fact, you just put out a tweet that was meant for me. Aim low.
Yes, it's amazing them suckers are dug.
They will, and they're good at it. But I just got a new bow. I had a good buddy of mine. I was humbled. I didn't expect it. He works for one of the big companies, and he sent me one of their brand new. I'm just old boy. I had one that I could afford. This was like I went to our local bow shop up here, and he said, "Darn, Doug, you went from a Volkswagen to a Cadillac here." I said, "Yep." And shooting is great. We're getting it dialed in now. When talking about hunting, and I want to talk a little bit more about hunting. Then I want to talk about people who may not have ever done it, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, curious question, everybody out there. I know you've been in stands. I've been in stands my life. Saddle hunting. Have you ever saddle hunted?
You know what? It's funny you say that because I haven't done any recently, but back in right out of high school, like 91, 92, and 3, me and a friend of mine, he had a store in Manchester, Georgia called Big Buck Trading Post, Shane Collier. We hunted out of saddles. I mean, holy cow. It was a Trophy Line was the name of the saddle company. And now they're huge. And that just come back around. And we did it because we could get anywhere, and most of where we were hunting was even private ground. A lot of times on clubs. The reason we did it was probably a different reason than some of the people do it now. We was doing it because, man, old redneck buddies of ours would go hunt your stand when you wasn't home, so we just didn't have a stand. We literally okay, we will sit in our stand, and we'll leave with our stand. So that's kind of what we were doing, and also we were trying to video. This was before we realized that we were going to have an opportunity, especially I was going to get the lucky break and start working at Realtree. And it's funny, I can say that saddle actually helped get me a job because some of the stuff that we were videoing back then with an old clunky VHS camera that I bought at Service Merchandise, which had to tell a lot, Service Merchandise. And so, yeah, that saddle hunting is kind of fun. I mean, I don't do a lot of it here. All my stands here on the farm is I try to have at least 20 foot high, and I usually use the big ladder stands because most all men, women, and children can get in them. They're safe, and so that's what I do. I make it easy. But I still, from time to time, our production guys, they'll still use a saddle. And there's times I'll do it, by myself if I just want to kind of tweak and go to a different area. But those things are pretty nifty. I mean, you're limited in some areas if you don't do it a lot because you can bump the tree and you can make a little more noise than maybe if you had a lock on or a ladder stand or even say in a blind. But they definitely have their use and they're really cool.
I've been looking at because my hunting, we've got land different places, but most of mine is if I go, it'll be I need to get in, get out. I don't have as much setup. And so I'm actually, interestingly enough, sitting here, and if you look on my computer right now, you're looking at, hey, Trophy Line, all these, looking to possibly get into it. So I think we're going to do it some this hunting season. So we'll keep in touch to see how that's going to go because it looks to me, again, for folks who are out there, you may have had the idea of, the stands like you talked about, you ladder, you climb up, sit on the platform, or you climb up, sit in it. And I've done all that. This one seems to me gives you a little more flexibility, to pick it up and go.
A lot. You can go where you want to, and how many times are you hunting and, it could be your home farm, or a place that you grew up hunting and you just realize that, man, if I could just be in this time frame, if I could just be 50 yards south, well, you can get down, you can move and you're right there. It takes a little bit of effort because I would always use screw-in steps to go up the tree and independent, you're a pretty tall guy, Doug. So yeah, you can get you 5 to 7 steps, screw-in steps or a ladder, and you can be up quick. And then a lot of times, if you want to, you can kind of go ahead and put steps in a lot of trees in a certain area based on different winds, and you can move around and jump around. And so that's huge when you're bow hunting. I mean, that can make the difference in success and not,
I get it. I'm looking forward to it. And so my wife is she keeps watching, and she basically, I think it's out of the corner of my eye, said, "Okay, have you pulled the trigger yet? Have I hit the buy button yet?"
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to explain that one to her. I said, "No, honey, I still got Christmas money. We're good."
That's right. That's exactly right.
I love it. All right, let's switch gears. You and me, again, and I take it from perspective, getting back into it. One of the things I've noticed getting back into hunting, there's so much out there, and trying to figure it out. I want to make this simple for a little bit. You got to say, if somebody who's never hunted, they want to hunt, they want to get out and they want to get in the woods. What would you say to somebody who, they got a little experience maybe, or maybe they don't have any, and they want to say, look, I want to be more self-sufficient. I want to learn how to hunt for my own food, or I want to get out and instead of watching TV and staying on the internet all the time, get out. What would you give an advice to somebody who's sitting there looking at this podcast saying, these two boys, they're crazy, but I want to be like them. I want to go out there and hunt.
I think the first thing I say, is learn to not be intimidated by the sport of hunting, whether it's the politics of it and or just the technicality of it. I mean, the beautiful thing about hunting, anybody can do it. It does take some knowledge, but right now, especially, that's one thing. Even though typically I'm not big on a lot of the technology we have, especially that takes away from our kids. But in this case, if you go to YouTube, you can go to My Outdoor TV, and there is, which is Outdoor Channel or Sportsman's Channel. Pursuit Channel has some great programs, and you can actually have so much content right there to learn firsthand, not only the success of it, but whatever it is that floats your boat from. If you're just a diehard and you just want to get into it because maybe you want to chase a really big animal, you can do that. If you just somebody who says, you know what, I'm tired of paying this for ground round. And, I grew up and, I remember my grandfather always had deer meat and I loved it. And so I just want to go and maybe learn how to get my own deer. In our state of Georgia, we have some phenomenal WMAs, which obviously you were right there in our Georgia Congress as well as our government and help protect those WMAs. So we got great access for everybody, not just in Georgia, across the country, whether you're looking for trophies and or just meat. And I think the biggest thing is just learn to approach it with fun and excitement and realizing that the biggest takeaway from in the beginning is just being removed from the hustle and bustle of, it could be the city life, it could be the stress that life has on you. Because let's face it, and a lot of times, especially us men, we have a lot on our shoulders. I know that's not necessarily something that politically is correct to say that men have a lot of weight on their shoulders, but we do. We're running businesses. You try to be the head of your home, and you try to be the guy who goes to the door if evil is knocking, obviously. And any man that's old-fashioned, like that's one thing I always appreciate about you. You were very old-fashioned in your beliefs and your faith and just how you looked at the simplicity side of things. I've always thought that, if somebody's going to get cut or injured at my home, it needs to be me. If somebody's going to get dirty or get rained on, it's going to be me. It's not going to be my wife, and so I feel the same way. So I've always thought, if you look at the world, I've always thought there was a difference in men and women. I've always thought women was more valuable. So there is a difference. And I've always thought, get them out of the boat first if it's sinking, out of the house first if it's on fire. So in that, for a man, there is something that's amazing. However, if you look at the ladies out here now, the number one rise in hunting has been in female hunters. And I think because we're sharing so much of the responsibility. So a lot of times people think hunting is just this alpha-based killer type of mentality. And it's far from it. Sure, there's some social media warriors that get on there that rub themselves down in Vaseline and flexing up and trying to run all up and every downhills and push-ups and pull-ups. And I'm not saying that it don't help you, especially if you're out in those mountains like we were talking about. But overall, anybody can do it. I mean, he's 6 now, but at 4 years old, my 4-year-old took 2 deer. And man, he swelled up with pride. And now he was right there. He was banking off all the experience and sitting with dad, ladder stand. One of them was in a redneck blind. So it was just like being an extension of his home. And, here comes a big old fat slick doe comes walking out and he shoots it. His mama's right there to celebrate it with him. We come back and I showed him where the tenderloin was, showed him where the backstrap was and what we could do. Later, he got out of school, and I would wait and we'd cut that meat up together, and we did a lot. Now, a lot of that type of stuff, you can go to our Bone Collector channel on YouTube, and or watch us on Outdoor Channel, and we talk about that. But I think the biggest thing is just start learning and digesting it and try and understand what it's really about. And the true thing, it does get back to a very common type of practicality that I think we've lost, is where used to, society, the old timers, when you wanted something to drink, well, you went to the creek. If you wanted to stay warm, well, you built a fire. If you was hungry, you went to the garden, or you went and you looking for meat. We're all born to be carnivores, and because we all got a canine tooth, we was built with teeth. Have nothing against a vegetarian or a vegan, but we designed our body. It's been proven our bodies are fine and designed to eat meat, just like a lion, just like a wolf. And so in that, now we don't necessarily go hunt for a deer. We go hunt for McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. Nothing wrong with that. But as we're seeing, I think the independence of hunting is something that people will look into it. If you look at politics, you look at everything, and you've seen it firsthand, Doug, and it's not necessarily just some conspiracy theory. An independent man, or the country boys and girls, the Second Amendment type of people, the ones that did not freak out during COVID, that you had no control over, are the most feared people. And the reason it's feared is because they cannot be the lapdog, because we're not going to work. We're not. Hunting truly helps in bringing an independence to you. So that was a long answer, maybe a little philosophical. But just get started. Just get started and find somebody around you that can help get you in the right direction. And especially if you're a man, probably one of the biggest problems we have as men too is our pride. Don't be afraid to ask, and just bring yourself down to an elementary level. And I'm telling you, people will help you out.
They will, and you'll be amazed. And I think the hunting culture, and I think that's the other thing is too, is, even if you've been away from it, like I've been away from it, there's still things, okay, what do I do now? And you call and you say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, and like I said, today, when years ago, when we were out, we didn't have a YouTube to go look at stuff. And I was just talking to my son, we were talking about fixing stuff. And I said, it's amazing what I can fix now with it. I can go, okay, how do you do this? I say, how do you put on egg? And, how to set up a stand? I've been watching so many, stand videos and stuff. I'm going to be a salesman for one of these stupid places at this point. And also I think one of the things I'd love to hear your part is, get what you need. You don't have to have everything. And, put it together. And also I'll make a recommendation, especially for clothes and other stuff. Most of us have stuff we can use underneath, and you can pick up stuff at Goodwill. You can pick up stuff at, to go out with, if you're going to get into it more, you have something to keep you warm, have something to keep you dry, those kind of things. But you don't have to be, I think the one thing I want to get across, you don't have to be a wealthy person to hunt. You don't have to, you'll get you some good equipment, the best you can afford, and that's what you can do.
There's no doubt. And I think there is some misconceptions, even in the hunting industry. If you look on a lot of the social media, a lot of people, oh man, hunting's done got too expensive and hunting's this and that. Well, they're not telling a story that's not true. It can be expensive, but it's at the level that you want to participate. Most of those people are talking about when they're looking at well-managed properties and these big mature whitetails, maybe big, huge elk. But overall, hunting can be very economical. And like I said, it's these resources, and they're renewable. If we take care of them, they'll take care of us. But there's some amazing public ground out there that you can find great success. There's dove fields that's planted by the state of Georgia. You can go in and put your name in, and you can go sit on those fields and have a chance to shoot your shotgun and maybe, have an opportunity to get your limit of dove. There's squirrel hunting places all over the country in these same public grounds, and different animals. You can pretty much still get access. Now, it's changed, Doug, since me and you been kids, first deer and turkey. You're right. That can be expensive to be part of a hunting club to go hunt turkey and deer, because there's a value to those animals and people will pay for that value. But overall, you're right. You can find equipment. You don't have to go out and spend an arm and a leg on equipment. There's some great equipment out there. A lot of times people will loan you, but man, I've got 2 bows out right now. The buddies of mine that never hunted, like, hey, and just so happened their draw length was the same. Like, take this bow and here's some arrows and, get after it. just last year, one of my wife's friends wanted to go squirrel hunting, and I had literally a little old Ruger 1022, and I just gave it to her. $400 gun. It had a little rust on it and some chunks out of the stock where I didn't haul it around and you know what I mean. But I'm thinking this was a single lady. She's probably 38 years of age and wanted to go squirrel hunting, and I thought that was odd. That was the least I could do, was give her a 22 and a sleeve of ammo.
Oh yeah.
So you'll find that the hunting community, anybody, if you're in the hunting community, then obviously I'm preaching to the choir like us old Southern Baptists do. Now, if you're not in the hunting community and you're hearing this message, I promise you, if you step over into it, you're going to find a whole nother family of people that I promise you'll find that you'll love, and they will love you as much as anybody, because they like success. And I think a lot of the hunters and fishermen are some of the finest people that we have in America, because they are just very independent and they understand this balance that sometimes we forget, so good people.
And that is it. All right, looking ahead a little bit, we got fall coming up. Of course, we got for all of us, and especially in Georgia, after 40-something years, thank God, University of Georgia, we're national champions, where we should be. We got football coming up, but in Georgia and across the country, look on your schedules. September 10th is bow season opening, deer in Georgia, bear as well, some other. Squirrel is actually already open, and a lot of other things. Gators coming up. But where are you going to be? What's your fall? Because I know you're probably already got plans and books. Do we got deer? We got elk? We got bear? What we got coming up?
My first September, being that I am a turkey hunter and I love turkey, the next thing this summer that could be elevated that's even better is elk hunting. So I'll be in Utah, maybe out in some of that country you just left. So I'll be out in Utah, and then I'm going to Oregon. And then our crew will be down in Arizona at the Navajo Indian Reservation hunting elk there. So pretty much September at Bone Collector, we're pretty much shooting elk footage, and that is just unbelievable. It's very physical. It's fun, the mountain air, and these animals are, for lack of better words, very sexually frustrated. These big bulls, that's their month that they breed, and they are bugling. And the cows are obviously, some of them coming in heat and through that cycle. And so you can manipulate them with calls. Obviously, they've got a good sense of smell, so you have to watch the wind. And obviously, an elk can just strike off and go 7, 8, 10 miles like nobody's business. So, you got to be in shape a little bit. And to get within range of a 700-pound elk and find success is some of the best eating, and it's probably one of the coolest challenges out there. So that's what we're going to start with. And then as we flow into October, we're going to start doing a lot more whitetail hunting. And the first week in November is always chasing big whitetails, typically in Kansas and Georgia, Illinois, Missouri, places like that, in that heartland where there's just big, huge whitetails.
That is it. Have you, on just a side note, have you ever hunted bear here in Georgia?
You know what? I have not. I've been actually, all up toward Gainesville, where you're from, I know, and then Helen and Dahlonega, that whole area. I did a lot of vacationing, so I've seen bear. I've been hiking and seen them. And we used to go. Matter of fact, that's where I had a chance. We used to compete every year at Unicoi State Park. That's where we used to have the state championship turkey calling contest. And I've seen a lot of bear, but I've never hunted them. And we got some big bear in Georgia.
600 pounds 3 years ago, Rayburn County.
No way, dude. That's a stud.
600 pounds. Big black bears. Just massive.
That's a
and to get them all, I'm trying to get a place. I got a couple of folks up there that I'm talking to. That's one I want to do in between deer this year is do some bear as well up there, because it's just huge, and they're coming down. It's sort of a mix between North Carolina and a lot of states, and across the country. You're seeing this. Is know your area. That's we talked about this area about people getting into hunting. Know what your area is about. And for some, you may not be in an area, but they're close by. And the public range, you own the public land. Okay, that's that's your ownership. So take advantage of that. But bear as you go. You gonna be doing Roosevelt elk up in Oregon?
I've never done that. I'm just doing Rocky Mountain where I'm at. I'm out toward, I think it's LaGrange or something like that. It's a friend of mine who just bought a ranch out there last year, and he just picked up some more. And that's some pretty cool country. I'd never hunted Oregon a lot. I've hunted turkey out there years ago, and then last year we went up and hunted a little bit, and so I'm looking forward to going back. That's kind of everybody knows there are elk in Oregon, but a lot of people don't go there. And Doug, you hit on something. I think a lot of people too, and maybe you're a Georgia hunter that's listening to this. A lot of people don't realize some of the best elk hunting in the world, literally, especially in America here, is on some public ground. You have to put in for those tags, but literally, it's amazing. All of my biggest elk with archery have all come, on public ground in Arizona and New Mexico and states like that. That just a lot of people don't realize. You drive out and go on an expensive camping trip to Colorado, which can yield good results. But some of these trophy areas in public ground out west it's just phenomenal. And so, definitely check that out because you're right. I didn't know that either. And of course, especially through your line of work, especially in politics, I mean, you see all kind of things that our money goes toward, tax money goes toward that's there. But a lot of times it's not advertised. We don't realize it. A lot of us outdoorsmen don't even know that we have this availability. A lot of people don't realize you can go to Alaska and you just pay an out-of-state hunting license and you can take off and chase black bear, so you got to get there. It's a long way, but
Well, and I need to also bring up something too, because there's a lot of folks out there who say, "Oh, you're going and taking it." Look, no, it's hunters who pay for this. We are the ones who concern through our purse of ammo, through our purse of both, the Pittman Fund. I mean, we're paying. The more people that come in, the more land is preserved, the more duck land, the more other. I mean, it's just that's something else that I think is something. It's a bad discussion out there. They think that hunters are only taking. No, these lands, these public lands that people just go hike on, they just go to their camping trips on. We're paying through what we do as hunters, and I think that is something I want to make sure that the people understand as we go. Mike, this has been a blast. I want to do this. Let's both of us. I want to get out the elk. I've never hunted elk. That's one of my next big steps is to go out and hunt elk. Let's have a hunting season this year. We'll keep in touch. You and I'll keep texting pictures back and forth. I'll text mine where he says, "Hey, it went right over his head, right there." You'll text ones where you have the big 6x6, and I'll say, "Well, thank you. That's great." As we go. But then let's get together because I want to do is after the hunting season, let's get back together first of the year, do sort of a wrap up after hunting season, see the things, talk about things. I want to do this in a series if we could, because I want people to get excited about it. I want us to go to Rep Doug Collins, go to Outdoor, go to Bone Collector, follow us on social media, see these stories through the fall. We'll get back together, talk about it. Hopefully you've got a little engaged, and then we're going to talk about your passion. Because when we get into January, February, we're getting close to turkey season, and especially here in Georgia. So we'll do the turkey time. But Mike, thanks for so much, folks. If you want to follow more on Michael Waddell, Bone Collector, just all you got to do is look it up, Google it up. You'll find it. They got great videos. They got everything there that you would need to know. You won't find a better guy in the world that I just admire by your values, what you stand for, and getting out there. And thank you for being a part and sharing some time with us today.
Well, thank you. And Doug, I want to tell you this too. Thank you for the fight that you put forward, because it takes a lot to do what you've done. And so a lot of times you guys don't hear it enough. You hear about a lot of the crazy and the corruptness sometimes that happens in our government, and it's there. But I want to say thank you for representing people like me, especially from the state of Georgia, but all across the country. A lot of times it's easy to see that people don't might not always support. As a matter of fact, the first thing before he was president, President Trump said to me, I saw him in Las Vegas randomly, and he I was with his son Donald Jr. He said, "Michael, you're a hunter. You guys don't vote." And I'm like, and I remember the first thing out of his mouth, I'm like mad at the guy. And then I started looking, and it caused us to go look and start looking at the amount of hunters that don't vote. And most of us are quick to talk about on the cool around camp. And so, long story short, I know that you've done a lot to preserve our conservative views and just basically, protect America. So I just want to say thank you for that and appreciate you representing me, because for me, that's what a representative is. When it says Representative Collins, that's what it is. You represent me. Obviously, I try to represent people as best of my ability when it comes to hunting, and you've done it for our state. in our country. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And I know a lot of listeners feel the same way. So heck yeah, buddy. And I promise you, if you're ever down close to Booger Bottom, if you go south to where you at, brother, you always got a place to hunt. Come on. I ain't gonna say we ain't gonna pick on you if you shoot over one of them, but that's all right. We'll get you a horse.
Well, we just laugh. I mean, my daughter actually was at Warm Springs, and most people know Jordan has spina bifida. She spent a lot of time at Warm Springs,
Yes.
so we know the area well. We'll get down there. Who knows? We may catch up this fall, and we'll have us a time together, folks. You've been listening to Doug Collins podcast. The Bone Collector is with us today, Michael Waddell. I am so pleased to have him on. You're going to keep up with us. Now, here's how you're going to do it. You're going to go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com. You're going to download the podcast. You're going to subscribe so you can stay with us. You're going to go and go to Rep Doug Collins. We've got our Instagram accounts. You got that. Michael, where can they what's your Instagram? How do they follow you on social media?
It's at Bone Collector Official on Instagram. That's the same on Facebook. At Booger Bottom on Twitter. And we've even got a TikTok. I guess I'm giving China all my data too, but we're dancing around like a little teenage kid on there.
I love it. All right, folks, another great episode here on the Doug Collins podcast. We appreciate you. Look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Hey, everybody, MyPillow, I just wanted to let you know, MyPillow is having the biggest sheet sale of the year. You'll have to help. You have all helped build MyPillow into an amazing company that it is today. And now Mike Lindell, the inventor and CEO, wants to give back exclusively to his listeners. The Percal bed sheet set is available in a variety of colors and sizes, and they're all on sale. For example, the queen size is regularly priced at $89.98, but it is now only $39.98 with our listener promo code. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to be able to get it. These Percal sheets are breathable. They have cool, crisp feel. They come with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible offer. There's a limited supply, so be sure to order now. Call 1-800-986-3994. Use the promo code Collins, COLLINS, or you can go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use the promo code Collins, COLLINS. Lisa and I sleep on these sheets every night. You will want to have them as well. They're a wonderful product. Go right now, either 800-986-3994, code word Collins, or go to mypillow.com. Also use the code word Collins to get this discount. You will not regret it.